Hello there, I'm Jesse B. Gill. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm also joined here by my fellow IGN video compatriots, partners in crime, Nick Limone, Jamie Parslow. Thanks for joining me, guys. Today we are still unpacking all the things that were in Star Wars The Last Jedi. We'll get right into it right now. So first up, in this film, both Han Solo and Luke Skywalker appear. We kind of expected that Luke might appear as his Force ghost after the way he became one with the Force in The Last Jedi, but Han Solo actually appears in this, not as a Force ghost, but more as like a vision. I don't know, Nick, did this work for you?
Well, let's start off with Luke. I think Luke's appearance almost directly was antithetical to what we saw in Last Jedi, where the first time we see him is Rey throwing the lightsaber into the destroyed cockpit of the TIE fighter she flew in, and the lightsaber is about to get in the fire, and then the ghost arm reaches out and grabs and is like, "Nuh-uh, you're treating my lightsaber with respect, the way it deserves to be," which I was like, rolled my eyes so hard. But that said, I was so happy to see Luke use the Force on the cliff to pick up his X-wing out of the water, something that he could not do on the swamps of Dagobah, and do it for the next generation. It made my heart swell, and it was just this triumphant moment of like, he did it.
Those X-Wings hold up real well after like decades of being underwater.
Oh, they put the perspirant water repellent. It's good to go.
Jamie, what'd you think about Luke and Han coming back?
Oh, I loved it both. It was Luke coming back was sort of expected. I think we knew that was supposed to come up. How he was going to interact was sort of the question. I like that he sort of rebuked what he had previously thought in the last movie, because at the end of that movie, as we know, he kind of comes to his own conclusion that says, "Oh no, I need to be one with the Force again," and so he does it, and then he passes away and then becomes the Force ghost. And I thought it was really great. Han coming back, however, was the big surprise for me. I had no idea that was going to come down the pipeline, how he was going to come back, if they were going to do it well, and I think they did. I really do. I think that they made a really good point of bringing it back for Ben and his motivation.
Luke's return, obviously we saw that coming, like I said. It didn't ring true for me because it felt like his only purpose of, for appearing in this film was to comment on the choices he made in the last film. And he doesn't really make any impactful choices in this movie at all. It's just kind of to make some commentary on what happened in the last movie. Fan service, definitely. I mean, I always like seeing Luke Skywalker.
Right.
I wasn't upset to see him, but I felt like that scene had more to do with another movie than it did with the movie we were watching.
I think that it served the only purpose it served, maybe not narratively or plot wise, but it served as Nick said, the idea of him finally raising that sky or the
cool.
X-wing out. And I think that had everything to do with him finally saying, "I've rounded out my whole path, my whole arc." I thought that was really
cool. And I've said it once, I'll say it again. Rey was not the person who treated the lightsaber with disrespect.
Right.
Luke Skywalker was that person. But moving on, Han Solo, I kind of had an inkling that Han might show up in this movie because we knew they were going to use footage of Carrie Fisher to include her in this film, to include Leia. Obviously, Luke was going to be in this movie. And so, to me, just in thinking of someone who thinks about how these films are made, I figured like it's the last one. They're not going to resist the opportunity of bringing the whole gang back in the same movie, and they did. We had Luke, we had Leia, we had Chewie, we had 3PO, we had R2. Lando was in this one. Yeah, so it was bringing all of our favorites back. Even if it was just as a scene, as a vision.
Well, I think the beautiful thing about Han's reappearance is it isn't a Force ghost. It isn't just a random encounter where he is talking to Kylo. It is Kylo both reliving probably one of the most tragic moments of his life, almost beat for beat, every single interaction they have, down to their hand movements, down to how Han interacts with his face.
It mirrors it.
It's something
that was cool.
It haunts Kylo. And this moment is pure catharsis for him, allowing him to not only forgive himself, but also realize that he's messed up along the way quite a bit. And this is forgiveness as a whole. Like, I personally didn't need to see Kylo redeemed, but the way they did redeem him, I would
worked for
argue
me.
it was pretty damn beautiful.
It was probably one of the better plot points of the entire film for me. And something I guess a little more personal about that scene is I've said many times to friends, to family, that Kylo Ren is my favorite part of the new Disney sequel trilogy. My father always gets really kind of like, well, he did kill his dad. Like he's always like mentioning that to
He's
me.
like, yeah, what?
And so what was really cool in this one is, I mean, it sucks because he totally did kill his dad, but at least in this one, he got a chance to at least try to say, I'm sorry, which even the way that happened was a very Star Warsy moment where Han's like, I know.
I'm, I'm actually of the opposite camp. I was actually sort of, not maybe the opposite camp, but I was sort of a little wishy-washy about Kylo Ren and his whole arc and where he was going. And this movie, I think, really turned that around for me, and particularly at that scene. And I was like, oh no, I love this character so much. This works out really, really well.
And guys, thank you so much. That about does it for us today, but we're not done with The Rise of Skywalker, so follow and subscribe to IGN wherever you like to watch.